I have books to support things I have said, and I have military orders for every day of my duty from July 10th of 1941 until my retirement on the 1st of July 1964. So I have no problem myself in verifying anything that I have put on this fine tape that you've prepared. Some people question that because obviously many of the books written during that same period are not accurate for one reason or another. When I taught at Yale during a period of 3 or 4 years, I was constantly going to that magnificent library trying to find true books about World War II, and I saw how difficult it was to get them. By the time of the Vietnam War, it was even worse. The books weren't accurate at all. So, having been through this kind of experience myself, I was asked by an editor, actually, to sit down and write about it, almost like a biography, day to day. So I began in the early days of World War II and came up till I retired. This has been a very necessary function of this CD because it is so difficult to hear the true story, the accurate story of the assassination of the president. People just don't realize, first of all, that the assassination of the president is a function of government around the world. Whether they want to believe that or not, it is. And so to find that a man is killed by a professional hit team, and I'm not talking about Americans, I'm talking about a hit team that's stateless. They're purposely trained to be stateless. That's part of the job. You can kill them with a gun easy. But the next is there has to be a cover story. There has to be a story that goes out that takes care of events so people will believe that story, as they've been trying to have us believe the story of Lee Oswald. But it takes more than that because people keep asking questions. They have to keep putting the answers in there, and they have to be reasonable. And this is where they're having a lot of trouble with this business of Kennedy's death. For instance, the Warren Commission, with a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court on it, says that 3 bullets were fired. Now, if you only go that far in the Warren Commission, you recall that 1 bullet went in the president's back, 1 bullet, at least one, hit Mr. Connolly, and a bullet hit a curbstone, and either a fragment of the bullet or a piece of the curbstone hit a man named Tague. Photographers took a picture of him with blood running down his face. Now there's 3 bullets. Now how about all these other things they want to talk about? That Kennedy was hit in the throat, that Connolly was hit on the wrist, there were fragments in his thigh. Where did those bullets come from? Or do you remember when CBS interrupted its nationwide news when they first heard that the president had been shot? They said 3 bursts of gunfire, automatic weapons were heard in Dallas. Now, whoever realized that there were 3 bursts of gunfire from automatic weapons, and yet that's what CBS said when they came on the air. And it's not just CBS. Well, one of the other important things in this period, and I know a lot of people are very interested in this also because 10,600,000 Americans served at one time or another in Vietnam. Yeah. And the story of what happened in Vietnam, even when the book is written by men who were leaders in our government, is very often inaccurate. For instance, how many people realize that the Vietnam War, our relationship in the Vietnam War started on the 2nd of September 1945. Yeah. In fact, when Mr. McNamara asked his people to prepare the Pentagon Papers, giving the Defense Department's story of the war, it began with that date, 7th of September 45, and it ended in 1975. 30 years of warfare in Vietnam that have never been adequately explained. While I was on Okinawa on the 2nd of September 1945, I saw ships being loaded to go down to Haiphong Harbor for Ho Chi Minh. And that's where things started. I was back in Vietnam in 1952, 53, and 54 as a commander of a heavy transport squadron, bringing military supplies into the forces that later became the forces of the South Vietnam Forces. I can talk about Vietnam right on up to the end of the thing because I was serving with it with people that had been there, and I'd been there myself. You can't do this very often in many of the books that we have. In the beginning of my time with the CIA, it was not the illustrious organization that it had been created since. If you think back that far, it was really just doing a lot of, the U-2 hadn't been invented and all that sort of stuff. But CIA blossomed out really in the Korean War. Pretty well began to build forces up then, and with the creation of special forces, which a good bit of it was CIA. But that didn't impress the Defense Department. You know, hell, we were the top dogs, and we knew it. So you had to feel that way, and that's why when they asked me to sign their clearance, I said, hell, I don't work for you guys. I got a clearance, good enough for the Defense Department. Take it or leave it. And of course, that's the only way I could do it. I got Lansdale his general star. He was talking with me one day and about how the hell is he going to work his thing. I said, no problem. You know, and you probably know the story. I wrote the letter for Dulles to sign, and Kurt LeMay made him a general. Well, people would die if they knew that was the way it went. See, I never really made much of a business of writing about the assassination. But I got drawn into it because people realized that, my word, I was sitting in the next office to Lansdale all this time. I was working with General Krulak, who was writing most of the military papers that Kennedy had directed, and he was seeing Kennedy every day. And I was right in that era, and not many people were. So there aren't too many people that can speak with that kind of familiarity with the situation.
Did you ever feel worried about that you might go too far? Say too much?
Well, no, I never have really, because you see, I have the great advantage of knowing the limits, knowing the truth. See, I only, in general, other than certain only talk about the things I did, that I was there.
Yeah.
I don't very talk about what the other guy was doing unless it bears on, and I've limited the things that I've done to that. And in every case, the projects I was on, I have a stack of military orders that ordered me to go. And I just keep that stuff because I was there when I talk about it. And it's a lot different. Other people didn't have that advantage, but they try to fill it in by doing a heck of a lot of research. Well, your research is tempered by the value of what you had to read in your research.
Yeah.
The things that Stone and I agreed with very much were that the film should present a level playing field for all the people that saw it. In other words, explain all the assassination lore, you know, good and the bad. Let the public get it all at once. Then come into the Garrison trial, the only place where there is an official record of certain elements of the... Now, I had worked with Garrison on his manuscript for his book, so I was very familiar with what he was doing. In fact, I made inputs to it through a series of letters that I wrote to Garrison, which became the transcript of the Man X Garrison conversation at the end of the film. They were using letters I had written Garrison. So our conversation actually, although it was, you might say, just created there, it came from the words of my letters. We said, look, the important thing about Kennedy's assassination is not... Lee Harvey Oswald or Ruby and all that foolishness, the Warren Commission. It's why was the president killed? And I remember when I saw the first showing of the film up on Capitol Hill, the audience just kind of went like that. It finally got to them that that's what's important. Well, now, if anything could be attributed to my collaboration with Stone, it was that area there. We were trying to open the eyes, and we said, we've told you all this. We've seen what a trial tried to do. Now let's think about some of the real things. Why was he killed? And the film was pretty good about that.
You were very good friends with Ed Lansdale.
Yes, we worked together from 1952 until he retired in 63 and I retired in 64. Almost all the time our assignments overlapped one way or another, or we were actually working in the same units together. Although he was always a CIA man, I was always a military man. But that's the way the system is set up. The military is supposed to support the CIA.
Well, my question then is, after I'd heard you speak of Ed Lansdale, I thought it was a kind of a bit of admission, but it took me by surprise until I reread and re-listened to your opinions that you actually were good friends. And I was wondering, did he ever talk to you after 1965 and share an opinion of what happened?
No, because neither one of us would talk operations that weren't essential.
Right.
As a matter of professionalism. And even though I recognized his photo in one of the so-called tramp pictures, I thought the best thing to do was to drop it.
If he wanted to talk about it.
However,
it was
I
up to
had
him.
written letters to contemporary friends and sent the pictures without any mention of who I thought might be there, and asked my friends what they thought about the pictures. Just what do you think about these pictures? And in each case, they came back and said, my God, that's Ed Lansdale in the picture. Well, of course I knew it was, which confirmed the fact that he was in the picture. So I didn't have to talk with him. I think he was there on business, just like Oswald was there on business, and I left it at that.